What's my hair doing? It's just like, I don't even care. Do I look bald though? I don't look bald. Whatever, fuck it. What the fuck is up, trash? How are you guys doing? I hope your Friday is going great. As you guys know by now, it is random week. We can do whatever we want. I originally wanted to do a funny video, but I decided to not do a funny video. I decided to do more of a serious video because I feel like I haven't really got serious on trash, at least in a very long time, if not ever, honestly. If you guys watch my main channel, you know I post every Tuesday and Saturday, and I post every Friday on trash. So tomorrow I'll be posting on my main channel, and what I'm posting tomorrow is a self-harm recovery tip type of video, and I figured I wanted to do something related to that on trash, because like I said, I wanted to do more of a serious video while it's a random week and we can do what we want. Maybe this will help at least one person that's watching this channel. So for this video, I am going to talk about self-harm myths, because there are just so many misconceptions about self-harm, and it's one of those things that you're not gonna understand it unless you do go through it. And it's just, you know, like I said, there's a lot of misconceptions, there's a lot of stigma, and I'm here to just kind of clear some things up for people who either don't really understand it, or for people that do self-harm and they just want to know that other people relate to you, and I know what it's like. Before I even get into the myths, just to, you know, get rid of the elephant in the room, have I self-harmed before? Yes. Do I have a history with self-harm? Yes. Am I going to talk about it any further than that? No. I am basically an open book on YouTube. I talk about my depression, my PTSD, my hospitalization, me having to leave school, all that. I've only mentioned a few times about the self-harm thing. I've never talked about it in depth, and I'm not going to. It kind of crosses the line a little bit for me in regards to what I want to post and what I don't want to post, for a few reasons. A lot of it is because I know that YouTubers do have an influence, and even if we're trying to help others, the last thing I would ever want is for someone to watch me, or someone else even, and say, oh, well, she did it and she got better, so it's no big deal if I do it to help myself cope. Like, no, I would never want to be that type of influence. And plus, I got better. I don't, and I haven't self-harmed in a very long time. But I just wanted to clear that up, that I do have a history with it a little bit, so it is kind of a personal topic, but I just don't want to take it further than that. And yeah, that's that. So now we can just get into the video. The first myth is that people who self-harm want to or are trying to end their life. That is a big myth. Most of the time, people who self-harm don't want to end their life at all. They just want the pain to end, or they want to feel the pain. People who self-harm are using that as a coping skill to cope with something else. It's not a healthy coping skill. It's very unhealthy, but it is a coping skill at that. It does help people cope with whatever, you know, they're trying to cope with. A lot of the times people do this to kind of get a relief of a certain type of pain, whether this be depression or anger even. It does act as a relief, but it's a temporary relief, if that makes sense. A lot of the times people self-harm because they feel like it's one of the only things that they have control over in their life. Many times people who self-harm report feeling like they just lost control of everything else in their life, and, you know, that's it. They don't have control over anything anymore, but the one thing they do have control over is causing pain on themselves. And I know that isn't going to make a lot of sense to people, but if you have self-harmed, you know exactly what I'm talking about. But like I said, it's one of those things that it's just not going to make a lot of sense to people if they haven't gone through it. A lot of the times people do it for the release of the endorphins. You know, when you self-harm, endorphins do get released, and it almost makes you calm again, in a sense, and it makes you be able to breathe and come back into the moment. And that's why a lot of people do it as well. Sometimes they feel like they deserve some type of punishment, you know. Maybe they are feeling so shameful or so guilty over something, and they feel like they need to and want to punish themselves. That is pretty common too. And sometimes they're doing it just to feel something. Have you ever been so depressed you almost feel numb? Like you can't feel anything. You are just so numb to the outside world and yourself. Self-harming, sometimes for some people, makes them feel something, and feeling something, even though it's pain, is a lot of the times better than feeling nothing at all. So are these people self-harming to end their life? Usually not. But then again, another myth could be that, do people who self-harm never want to end their life? Because that's not true either. There have been, you know, many cases of people trying to end their life from cutting or other self-harm techniques. Like, that can happen too, but most of the time when people self-harm, they're not trying to end their life, and they don't want to end their life. They just want the pain to stop, they want to distract themselves from whatever else is going on, or they want to feel something. There's usually a deeper reason why they're doing it. Another myth is that people who self-harm are doing it for attention. This one makes me so mad, and I feel like you see a lot of this in like middle school, high school. I remember someone that would cut themselves in my high school, and a lot of people would say that she was doing it for attention, and I was so fucking mad. I wanted to slam her head into a locker because it's just so uneducated. A lot of the times when people self-harm, they go through extreme measures to hide it. They will either wear long sleeve shirts all the time, time, even in the summer, to hide their wrists or their arms, or they will cut themselves or self-harm in other areas like their legs, or anywhere even that is going to be covered with clothes. If they were my girlfriend. If they were doing it for attention, then that wouldn't be the case. Now, of course, there's some cases where people do self-harm in kind of a manipulative type of way. This is sometimes seen in BPD, borderline personality disorder, but that's not always the case at all. Most of the time, it's not for attention, and even when it is seen in BPD, it's not so much for attention, it's almost manipulative, like I was kind of saying. Another myth is when people self-harm, they could stop whenever they want to. This is so inaccurate, and if you have a history with self-harm, you know exactly what I'm talking about. It almost becomes an addiction. It is pretty much an addictive behavior. A lot of these times, you know, these people are struggling with it and they want to stop. They want to get help. They don't want to do it, but they can't. They become so dependent on this coping technique that all the other coping techniques just don't work anymore, and you have to resort to self-harming again to make yourself come back into the moment or feel better or get that release or relief or whatever it is the reason why you're doing it. Because each time you're feeling sad or depressed or angry or numb, when you reach for your tool or whatever you're using and you self-harm, you're going to become reliant on that the more and more you do it, because it's helping you, so you continue to do it, and all the healthy coping techniques are just not gonna be enough, and that is why it becomes so addictive. So usually you can't just stop. It is a lot harder than that, and a lot of the times after a person self-harms, they even feel worse about it because they don't want to do it. A lot of the time they want to stop, but it's so hard, and sometimes they give in and they do it, and it helps in that moment, but only in that moment. It's only a very temporary relief. A lot of the times they end up feeling way worse about themselves after, and that's just proof right there that they can't just stop if they wanted to, because it's very hard to just stop. Next myth is that cutting is the only way to self-harm. I don't really know if that's more like a myth or like a misconception, but a lot of people think that cutting is the main way of self-harm, but that's not true at all. Self-harm is literally what it says. Self-harm, any harm you are putting onto yourself. Any like injurious behavior, a lot of the times it is cutting, but it could be head banging, it could be hair pulling, it could be wrist banging, it could be burning, it could be scratching. Any type of pain that you are causing on yourself is self-harm. Next myth is that it's just a teenage girl thing and she'll grow out of it. So many myths in this statement. One, self-harm is not just a teenage thing, and it is certainly not just a girl thing. People of all ages self-harm. It's just not so much heard of, because a lot of the times you see this in like high schools and middle schools and stuff like that when it's your friends, but a lot of adults self-harm. And also a lot of men self-harm, gender, sex, whatever. It has nothing to do with that. I feel like what caused that myth is that girls sometimes are just more open with their feelings and their emotions and their behaviors, whereas if a boy was self-harming in middle school or high school, I feel like usually he would go through a lot more drastic measures to hide it, because boys are supposed to be tough and big, and they can't be depressed, and they can't, you know, be in touch with their emotions, and they can't feel sadness, and they certainly can't self-harm. There's just that stigma behind girls versus boys, but it's not true at all. It's just a myth. Boys certainly do self-harm, and the other myth is that they will just grow out of it. It's not a phase. It's not a teenage phase. Yeah, maybe it's more common through that ages because of all the hormones and the adjustments and the changes and all that, but adults certainly self-harm as well. And the last myth that I want to talk about, which is a huge one, is that self-harm is untreatable. This is a huge myth, and believe me, like I said in the beginning of the video, I know firsthand it is treatable, and even though it feels like you're never going to be able to stop, you can and you will stop. If you put your mind to it and you get the help that you need. First of all, I'm going to talk more about this in my video tomorrow on my main channel, so make sure you look out for that. But I do just want to say it in this video as well, if anybody is struggling watching this video, find out why you are self-harming, you know, like figure out your triggers. That's a big step in recovery, is, you know, what triggers you to do it, you know, is it your anger, is it your depression, is it feeling numb, is it the control thing, what is it? And then when you find out why you're doing it, you could figure out a healthier coping technique or something else to replace the self-harm, or something to distract yourself, or you could figure out just what you need to do to improve and start your road to recovery. First step is find out why you're doing it. But yeah, back to the myth that self-harm is untreatable. Not true at all. Therapy is huge with this. Just talking about what's going on, saying it out loud to someone that is not going to judge you is very helpful. And like I said, if you figure out why you're self-harming, is it the depression, is it the anger, there's medications that could help you as well. There's no medication that is strictly for self-harm, but that's why I said it's really important to figure out why you're doing it. And if need be, there's medications that will be able to help you just chill out and not need to result to that as much, you know? There are support groups you can go to with people of the same age dealing with the same things as you. There's even online chat rooms. This could be really helpful because you'll know that you're not alone. Having someone to confide in that's been through the same thing or going through the same thing even, it just makes you feel like you're not alone and that you can get better and you will get better. I think just knowing that other people are dealing with similar things is just a refreshing feeling, for me anyway. My point here is that there's always ways to help, and I'm going to leave a bunch of resources in the description below. Please check them out. I'll leave links to online chat rooms, hotline phone numbers, all that stuff, even articles. I'll link a bunch of stuff. Check it out if you're struggling, and just know that if I could get better and tons of other people can get better, you could get better. It's not untreatable. It's not the end of the world. You're not a bad person. You're just struggling and you're coping with something that is really hard to cope with in a not so healthy way, but I don't want to say it's okay because I don't want to condone it, but you're not alone. And like I said, if other people can improve, you can improve too. I know it feels like when you're really like stuck in that hole that there's no getting better and that you're never going to be able to stop. But like I said, you will be able to stop, and I believe in you. And with that being said, I think that's all the myths I want to talk about in this video. One more time, I am going to be posting a self-harm recovery tip video on my channel tomorrow. My channel link is also in the description, so stay tuned for that. And I don't know, I hope this video helped someone or cleared up some misconceptions about, you know, this touchy subject. More so, I hope my video tomorrow will help a ton of people because I'm gonna kind of tell you what worked for me and what works for others. And yeah, I love you guys so fucking much. And I will see you tomorrow on my main channel, and I will see you next Friday on Trash. Peace.